My name is Hector Sanchez, and I'm a producer at NetherRealm Studios. I work primarily with the design team as well as the core technology group. Injustice is the next fighting game from our studio. After we developed Mortal Kombat, we wanted to do something a little bit different, so we decided to make a game that was set primarily in the DC universe. Having access to Batman and Superman and Gotham City and Arkham and all these kind of locales was just something really cool to be able to kind of put our artistic style and our kind of our design style on these kind of characters that were well known. So it was a really fun time. So story mode is pretty intense. It's a lot of gameplay, and we basically tell the story of Injustice. How are these characters fighting against each other? Why are they fighting against each other? Things like that. It's super intense. You take control of a character, and you see the events of the story kind of play out based on that character's perspective. So you'll start out and you'll control Batman for a few fights, and the story follows him. Then you'll transition to Aquaman. The story follows him as you take control of Aquaman for a couple of fights. So by the time you're done with story mode, you'll have sampled a vast majority of the cast, and you'll get an understanding of which character should be kind of like your favorite as far as like that complements your play style and things like that. Yeah, exactly. The presentation is very similar to Mortal Kombat. It's you watch a cutscene, then there's a fight, and then there's a cutscene, but you also add in the extra element of mini games in some of the fights as well. So we have like some mini games before some fights that actually influence the starting conditions of the following fight. So, for example, in a Batman versus Lex fight, there's a mini game where you're throwing batarangs at Lex Luthor. Depending on how many batarangs you hit him with, that equates to the amount of damage that Lex starts the next fight with. So you actually have the opportunity to start a match with like a 50% health advantage over the opponent, which is kind of a big deal as you're playing through story mode. Well, one of the first things that we wanted to do was kind of change the button layout, and that was the first thing that we did. So Mortal Kombat has always had kind of like a block button, a dedicated block button. Now we don't have that. Now it's holding back to block. There used to be 4 attack buttons in Mortal Kombat. Now there's only 3 attack buttons, light, medium, and hard. We've added the character power button, which is kind of like a single special move for each character that's mapped to just one button. We also took away kind of like the round system. In Mortal Kombat, it's always been 2 out of 3 rounds. Now we have kind of a single health bar for each character that has 2 layers that's continuous the entire time. And the biggest change is the background interactive objects. We've had them in Mortal Kombat before, but not to the scale that they're in Injustice, where you're able to grab things out of the background and use them in a fight, and they really kind of sway the momentum of a match. So those are kind of like the big things that separate it from Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so we took kind of the concept of having like a big cinematic kind of like event in the game, and took it away from the end of the match and put it kind of like in the middle of the match. And so when your super meter is filled up with all 4 bars, you can hit the 2 trigger buttons together, and you'll initiate this kind of like big super move that's influenced by the character's powers and their personality and their design, and hits for a lot of damage. So those are kind of like these big kind of like in-game almost fatality moments, but the fight still continues after that. Yeah, so each character fits into a different type of class. We have like power characters like Aquaman and Superman and Wonder Woman, and then we have more like gadget, kind of agile characters like Batman and Harley Quinn and that kind of stuff. We have acrobatic characters like Flash and Nightwing. So there's different kind of character classes, and they interact with the background objects in different ways. So the gadget and acrobatic characters would jump off an object, whereas a power character would pick up that object and kind of like throw it. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can interact with the backgrounds. So there's different ways that you can do it. So not only can you jump off of it as a gadget character, you can also blow it up. You can also set kind of a bomb on it and blow it up as well. You can also grab somebody and smash their head into it as well. So we've balanced the background objects just as we've balanced the characters in kind of different ways. So if a power character can pick up the car and kind of slam it, that's a one-time use. It leaves you vulnerable. There's quite a few frames of startup on it, but it does a lot of damage versus like getting blown up or smashing into the head of the car. It does a little bit less damage, but because you can do those events more than one time, that's how those kind of like balance out and equal each other. So we were making sure that none of the interactive objects are too unbalanced. Yeah, it was definitely tough. There's going to be a lot of unhappy people in the comic book universe, but for those people whose favorite character didn't get chosen, just don't forget that we have DLC as well. So we'll get to the characters that we couldn't get to, but we were constrained by the amount of time. Like we can only create so much content in kind of a window. So we still have the opportunity for DLC to do a lot of characters. So we encourage people to kind of interact with us on social networks and give us suggestions on who should be in the game. But initially, when we chose the roster, we wanted to kind of have a mix of like really popular characters and some kind of fringe characters as well. So that's why you'll see Batman and Superman and Flash and the Justice League characters, but then you also see lesser known characters like Solomon Grundy and Harley Quinn and characters that maybe on the street people wouldn't recognize them right away, but because their powers translated well into a fighting game, we decided to kind of include them in the game as well. Hawkgirl is another like very cool one. Things like that. Black Adam. They're very cool kind of characters, but they just don't have the name recognition someone like Wonder Woman or Aquaman has. Yeah, exactly. You can't please everyone. There's comic book fans that are asking for, some golden age villain that hasn't been seen in the comics since 1954. Like, you can't please everybody, right? We can't put in that character in the game. Nobody knows who it is. But at the same time, then they were complaining that there's too many Batman characters, and it's we our audience are two of the most critical audiences in all of the world. It's fighting game fans and comic book fans. So there doesn't get a more discerning eye than those two groups. And now we put them together and put ourselves right directly and kind of like the bullseye on that. But it's a welcome challenge. It just makes us create a game that's better, and hopefully we don't give them anything to complain about, because we'll hear it, and we do hear it all the time. My favorite character in the game right now is Sinestro, just because it fits my play style. He's he's a zoning character. He likes to keep people away, and I don't like to be up close and doing like big fancy combos. I like to kind of run away the entire match and throw missiles from across the screen and hold people in place and kind of annoy people and stay away like that. So right now he's the best character for that. But for more like general kind of fighting, if I just play it like casually, I like to play Batman just because he has so many different kind of tools available to him. He can fight close range, he can fight from far away, he can fight in the air, he has a good ground game, so he's very well rounded. But when I'm playing competitively, I always pick Sinestro and people get really mad, so it's good. Cool. Time.